Intro. Have you ever laid in bed at night, staring at the ceiling, your body exhausted but your mind wide awake? Thoughts spin like a carousel that never slows down, regrets from yesterday, worries about tomorrow, endless what ifs you can't seem to silence. You tell yourself to relax, but the harder you try, the louder the noise becomes. This is not just a modern problem. Even 2,000 years ago, the most powerful man in the world, the Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius, wrote in his private journal about restless nights, about being pulled away by thoughts he couldn't control. Seneca, the great Stoic writer, admitted he was everywhere except with himself. What they faced is what we still face, a mind that never shuts off. But here's the secret. The Stoics didn't accept this as their fate. They developed practices, almost like mental training, to calm the storm within. They understood something profound, that peace is not the absence of thoughts, but the mastery of how you relate to them, and that mastery can be learned. In this video, we're going to uncover the Stoic secret to calming a mind that never shuts off. We'll explore why your mind races, how the Stoics found focus in the present moment, why letting go of control frees you from anxiety, and the rituals they used every single day to build resilience. But before we dive in, I want to invite you to join our journey here on Legacy of Thinkers. If you've ever wished for more calm, more focus, and more wisdom in your daily life, this is the place. Hit the subscribe button and become part of a community that is bringing ancient wisdom into the modern world, practical, timeless, and life-changing. Now, let's begin with the first step, learning to recognize the restless mind. Section 1. Recognize the restless mind. The first step in calming a restless mind is to recognize it for what it is. Most of us move through life on autopilot, never noticing how our thoughts dominate us. You wake up and your mind is already racing. The unfinished email, the bills you haven't paid, the conversation that didn't go the way you wanted. By the time you're brushing your teeth, you've lived 3 different scenarios in your head, and none of them are happening in reality. The Stoics were brutally honest about this struggle. Seneca admitted that his mind would drag him into the future or chain him to the past, rarely letting him inhabit the present moment. He described himself as being everywhere except with himself. Marcus Aurelius, the emperor of Rome, confessed in his meditations that even he, surrounded by power, armies, and wealth, was constantly at risk of being consumed by worry. If the man who ruled an empire was plagued by restless thoughts, how could any of us expect to be free from them? But here lies the key. The Stoics recognized the restless mind as a condition of being human, not a personal failure. They didn't judge themselves for it, and neither should we. Instead, they learned to observe it, almost as if standing outside of themselves. Epictetus would tell his students, "You are not your thoughts." That simple separation, the ability to see your thoughts as clouds passing through the sky of your mind, creates the first crack of freedom. Think about it. The moment you can say, "I am noticing that my mind is restless," you've already shifted. You are no longer drowning inside the thought. You are the observer watching it float by. This recognition doesn't silence the noise immediately, but it loosens its grip. It gives you space, and space is all the Stoics needed to begin their practice. Because when you see the restless mind clearly, you can finally take the next step, guiding it back to the present. Section 2. The Stoic practice of present focus. Once you recognize the restless mind, the Stoics invite you to do something radical. Bring it back to the present moment. Because here's the truth. Most of our suffering doesn't come from what's happening right now, but from the stories our mind spins about the past and the future. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations, "Confine yourself to the present." Those words are simple, but they carry a sharp edge. He understood that life is only ever lived in this exact breath, this exact moment. The regrets of yesterday, untouchable. The fears of tomorrow, not real yet. What you actually have is now. Think about how often the mind tries to drag you away. You're at dinner, but replaying an argument from the morning. You're walking outside, but already worrying about tomorrow's meeting. The body is present, but the mind is everywhere else. The Stoics saw this as the root of discontent, a refusal to be where life is actually unfolding. So how did they practice present focus? Through deliberate exercises. Seneca encouraged daily reflection, asking, "Are you really present? Or are you lost in shadows?" Epictetus told his students to treat every moment as if it were a test. Could they respond only to what was right in front of them? You can do the same. The next time your mind races, pause and ground yourself. Look around and name one thing you can see, one thing you can hear, and one thing you can physically feel. Maybe it's the sound of a bird, the weight of your hands resting, the color of light through a window. That small act pulls you from the whirlpool of thought back into the anchor of the present. And here's the paradox. The present is never as overwhelming as the stories we tell about it. In the now, there is usually just one task, one breath, one step. By practicing presence, the Stoics found not only calm, but also clarity, the ability to live life as it is, instead of as their mind imagined it to be. Section 3: Detachment from what you can't control. One of the greatest causes of mental restlessness is the illusion of control. We replay arguments in our heads because we wish we had said something differently. We worry about tomorrow's outcomes because we think if we stress hard enough, we can bend the future to our will. But the Stoics cut through this illusion with a blade of clarity. Focus only on what is within your control, and detach from everything else. Epictetus, once a slave and later one of the greatest Stoic teachers, put it simply, "Some things are up to us, and some are not." He knew suffering multiplies when we fight against what we cannot change, like shouting at the rain, hoping it will stop. No amount of anger, regret, or overthinking will change the weather, the past, or the choices of others. Detachment doesn't mean apathy. It doesn't mean you stop caring. The Stoics cared deeply about justice, virtue, and living well, but they refused to chain their peace of mind to things outside their power. Imagine watching a ship sail out of harbor. You can't control the winds or the waves, but you can control how you hold the rudder of your own boat. That's where your energy belongs. In modern life, this practice is liberating. You can't control if your boss is in a bad mood, but you can control how you respond. You can't force someone to love you, but you can choose how much love and dignity you give. You can't guarantee success, but you can show up with effort and integrity every single day. And here's the paradox. The moment you release what you cannot control, your mind grows lighter. The noise fades because you've stopped feeding it with resistance. Detachment isn't about giving up. It's about reclaiming your energy for the only thing you ever truly own: your actions, your choices, and your character. Section 4: The Daily Stoic Rituals of Calm. The Stoics understood that calm was not a one-time achievement but a daily discipline. Just as the body needs exercise, the mind needs consistent training. They built small rituals into their mornings and evenings, routines that anchored them against the storms of life. Marcus Aurelius began each day with a kind of meditation, reminding himself that he would meet the busybody, the ungrateful, the arrogant, the deceitful. By rehearsing these encounters in advance, He trained his mind not to be surprised or shaken. His morning ritual was not about escaping difficulty. It was about preparing for it with steadiness. At night, Seneca turned to journaling. He would review the day, almost like a courtroom judge examining a case. He asked himself, "What did I do well? Where did I falter? How can I improve tomorrow?" This ritual turned restless thoughts into a tool for growth rather than a source of anxiety. Instead of lying awake replaying mistakes, he captured them on paper, then set them down. Epictetus taught another practice, aligning with nature through breath and simplicity. He urged his students to pause, breathe, and remember how small each worry is compared to the vast order of the universe. A few slow breaths could shrink the problem back to its proper size. For us, these rituals are just as powerful. Imagine starting your day not with your phone, but with a written reminder. Today, I cannot control others. I can only control myself. Imagine ending the night by writing down one worry and then one thing you controlled well. Over time, these small acts reshape the mind. Calm doesn't arrive by accident. It is built, brick by brick, through habits. The Stoics showed us that peace is not found in grand gestures but in the quiet rhythm of daily practice, morning by morning, evening by evening, until it becomes part of who you are. Outro. We've walked through the restless mind together. We've seen how it pulls us into the past, chains us to imagined futures, and robs us of the calm that could be ours. The Stoics faced the same storm, but they discovered a way through. They taught us to first recognize the restless mind, then to practice presence, to release what we cannot control, and to shape our days with rituals that ground us in peace. What does all of this mean for you? It means that you are not powerless. No matter how loud the noise inside your head, you can step back, observe it, and choose differently. Peace is not about silencing every thought. It is about realizing that your thoughts do not have the authority to command your soul. You do. And here is the gift of Stoicism. It doesn't demand perfection. It asks only for practice, one breath, one reflection, one choice at a time. Over days and weeks, those choices accumulate, building a calmer, steadier, stronger mind. That is the legacy Marcus, Seneca, and Epictetus left us. And it is a legacy you can live. If this message spoke to you, if you've ever felt the weight of overthinking, or the exhaustion of a mind that never stops, I want to invite you to join us here at Legacy of Thinkers. This channel is more than videos. It's a community of seekers bringing ancient wisdom into the chaos of modern life. So before you leave, take a moment to support this journey. Like this video if it gave you something meaningful. Comment below. Share how your own mind wrestles with restlessness, or which Stoic practice you want to try. Share this video with someone you know who needs calm right now. And most importantly, subscribe to Legacy of Thinkers, so together we can keep building a life of wisdom, clarity, and strength. The Stoics taught that we cannot add more years to our life, but we can add more life to our years. Let this be the beginning of yours.